Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Brownwater Banter podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
It's actually Joseph Cates on his birth certificate. We looked it up. So, no, we got a great show for you. In the studio, we have Ricky Mathews, man. Long time with the Sun Herald. He's doing his own show with SuperTalk Mississippi. We're going to be going over a lot of stuff. It's going to be a long conversation, I got a feeling. We want to cover some big topics, especially the media, local media, with the recent passing of Charlie Kirk. There was a little incident online with the Sun Herald, and that's really what triggered this episode. We're going to get into that here in just a minute, but before we do, we want to thank the people to keep the lights on for us over here at the Brownwater Studio. Right out of the gate, Dr. Robbie Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles. Man, if you're looking for a great local dentist, you can find them on the socials at Southern Magnolia Smiles on Facebook and Instagram. They are located right there in Ocean Springs on Washington Avenue. So 2025 is a year to brush your teeth. So when you're ready to book that consultation with them, give them a shout at 228-215-1202 and tell them Brownwater sent you. If you need legal representation for any reason, Taylor and Cox Law Firm is the one for you. They specialize in felonies, misdemeanors, DUI, BUI, family law, divorce, child custody, you name it. It's our buddy Tyler right here in the photo looking sharp. They're in Jackson County, George County, and Greene County. So like I say, if it's you or someone you know needs legal representation, just give them a shout at 228-696-0111. And again, tell them Brownwater sent you. Forever Young Men and Women's Health. If you're trying to get moving around again, prioritizing your health, they are the ones for you. Kendrick is extremely knowledgeable in all things. Let me just read their motto: bringing medicine, health, and exercise together to help men and women live their best lives. He nails it with that. So
I like it.
Yeah. You can book a consultation with them. They'll draw some blood work on you. They'll run some labs, figure out if you're vitamin deficient, you're hormone deficient. They specialize in testosterone replacement for both men and women, believe it or not. Go back and look up our episode that we did with him a little while ago, and he breaks it all down, man. They're doing really cool things over there.
And he's got a sweet haircut.
He does have a sweet haircut. Yep. It's kind of, I'm jealous. There's no doubt. But to book that consultation, give him a shout at 228-363-6623. And again, tell them that Brownwater sent you. So I'm also going to real quickly shout out the Brownwater shop is up and running. If you want to get one of our new hats, like the one I'm wearing right now, or Joey's got on, scan this QR code or just go over to brownwaterbanter.com/shop and you can check it out. It really helps us support the show. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, Ricky, what's going on, man? How are you doing today?
It's good to see you guys. Look, I admire what you guys are doing. It's amazing. Man. You stood the test of time.
Hey, we're trying. We're doing our best over here. Absolutely. We're doing our best. Thank you for stopping by this evening. I'm doing some clicking real quick. Give me 1 second. Stopping by the studio. We haven't spoke since the last time we were on your show digitally. Yeah, that's right. That was
a long time ago.
It was. Time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
Yeah, you did it. You did a good job though.
We appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks for having us on. That was a great conversation.
That was weird because we do this and I was nervous to go on his show, which was weird. I don't understand why.
If you think about it though, Joey, that's probably how many, like we're usually asking the questions. We're not
right. Now I got to answer.
Yeah. So that might have been the first time I think you did one other digital show, Joey, didn't you? Before, other than that, to where you were the guest.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Anyway, like I mentioned on the intro, the thing that spurred this conversation was a post that the Sun Herald made on their Facebook page, and we'll get into that. I got some photos, and we're going to talk it all through. But the first person that popped into my head was you, because I know you worked there for a very long time, and I'll let you explain that as we get into the conversation. But I was like, I got to talk to Ricky about this because, you know, I started looking things up, and where is this company now owned, and who owns them? Where are they located? Why are they not representing what the local community is about and what the Sun Herald used to represent to me, and I know most of the people in this community. So that's why we're here today. So let's just start with your background, man, because you're doing a lot, you've done a lot, and let's let people know that maybe if they're hearing about you for the first time.
But and what we can do actually, in terms of sort of understanding where I come from, we can talk about the history of the newspaper. So that kind of
rock and roll.
Yeah. So when I got out of school, I went to paramedic school. I was going to be a doctor. That's what I wanted to be. Yeah. And death and dying wasn't for me.
No, it's not. It's not cool.
And but I did work as a paramedic for a number of years. But along the way, I changed my major. I did an internship at the Sun Herald in 1982 and never left.
Okay.
I finished school full time at night. Went on to get my MBA. And, Roland Weeks, the former publisher, just kind of put me under his wing early in my life and gave me tremendous opportunities. I was leading a division in my 20s. Back in the 80s, you just didn't do that. So I look back on it and think he needed his head examined. But he saw things in me that, I didn't see in myself at the time. It was a terrific career. When I joined the Sun Herald, there was always this challenge of, where does newspapers fit in? But newspapers were the boss hog for a long, long time.
I'm glad you said that, because I want to make sure people know, like, we got a younger-ish, not younger audience, but we do have some people that are younger. If you didn't, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the late 80s and the 90s. Like, the paper was a big thing, man.
Yeah, it was.
Everybody got it. I can remember going to my aunt's house, and the whole entire Cedar Grove neighborhood was just paper.
Yeah.
You'd open it up, you'd read. That's how you got a lot of your news, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have cell phones back then.
Imagine this, 130,000 readers a day.
That was a subscription? Like, how does that stat work?
It would be 50,000 circulation, 2.3 readers per copy.
Okay.
So it was unbelievable.
Right.
Then when you look at the advertising pie, you do some advertising. You understand it. If you look at the entire market, the advertising pie, the Sun Herald had more than 50% of the marketing dollars, and those are the national dollars coming into the market, and also the numbers inside the market. So, grocery stores, Gafers spending $1 million at one time.
That's where you used to shop, kids. Before Amazon.
Well,
the mall.
I remember cutting coupons out.
Hell yeah, I remember that.
Snipping them out. Here we go. Yeah.
But car dealers spent just a fortune. Classified. The real estate. If you want to go sell and buy something, we didn't have the internet.
No.
So it was the big deal. But people kept saying, man, if anybody ever invents a better alternative, newspaper is going to be in serious trouble. And, we rode that for a very long time. To kind of fast forward a little bit, I worked in just about every area of the newspaper. And in late 1990s, I had the opportunity to go do some work for Knight Ridder. I was still working as the operation director at the Sun Herald, but I was commuting to Philadelphia for 6.5 months and then to Miami for 1.5 years weekly. So I lived there during the week, and I was home on weekends. And by the way, during that time, Ann and I had babies.
Life kept
going. Yeah.
For us that don't know who Knight Ridder is,
can you explain that structure?
Knight Ridder was at the time the second largest newspaper company in America. 32 newspapers, 26,000 employees. Miami Herald, San Jose Mercury News, Detroit Free Press.
So the big guys.
Philadelphia Inquirer. The big guys. And we were part of that company. We became actually part of Knight Ridder in the 1980s. When I joined the company in 1982, it was actually owned by a family out of Columbia, South Carolina. The name of the company was State Record Company. But in the late 80s, about 1986, 87, sometime in that range, Knight Ridder bought us. And it was a great ride, man. It was a wonderful ride. Like Knight Ridder owned us when Katrina hit.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how good Knight Ridder is, in fact. When Katrina hit coastal Mississippi, the number of resources they sent to help us, because 67 of our employees lost everything. Some lost family members, some lost friends. It was devastating. Everybody had those same. Any company on the coast had the same kind of stories to tell. But there was a moment in time that I said, how many people from Knight Ridder are actually here? It was over 60 people from Knight Ridder. Wow. Pressmen from Miami Herald, people from Charlotte, North Carolina, reporters in every aspect of our company. It was an amazing story. So Knight Ridder was a
good company,
a really good company. I led the strategic planning. So I did that work in the late 1990s, and then in 2005 was asked to come in and co-lead strategic planning for the whole company.
What does that year ring a bell?
Yeah, that's right.
2005.
Yeah. What's interesting about it is literally the week Katrina hit was the final report out. I was in San Jose the week before, and we were kind of buttoning it all up, getting it ready to present to the executive committee. And Tony Ridder is sitting in my office. The CEO of Knight Ridder found his way to the coast the day after Katrina, and he says, "Oh, by the way, you don't need to come to San Jose Thursday."
Thank you, man. Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah,
but
about that.
But yeah, it was a really great company, and they the plan that we were working on recognized that. If we at the time we were still, the phones were becoming a thing, man. Blackberries were out there. Yeah. The emergence of some kind of smartphone was happening, but the iPhone hadn't been introduced yet.
Right.
So the report was done in 2005, and we said when they figured that out, it had a lot to do with being able to get a lot of data. We called it through the pipes, but essentially it was the ability for people to be able to receive massive amount of data on the phone, and they were working through that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then In 2006, McClatchy makes a run at Knight Ridder to buy it. One of our institutional investors said we should seek strategic alternatives. Knight Ridder sold at a very high price. So the people who own Knight Ridder sold it.
Very smart move.
Very best time. They
Right.
didn't want to be honest with you. They did not want to. They were ready to ride this thing out.
Really?
McClatchy went in debt billions to buy it. That was in 2006.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Okay. So for people like write this down. Like Knight Ridder sold a newspaper in 2006.
Yeah.
The iPhone comes out the year after that and
Yeah.
destroys over time. It wasn't instant, but destroys newspaper value.
But we saw
For the most part.
If you look at if you go back and read a lot of the financial reports about the newspaper industry, what we discovered and what we really put a compelling case around as it relates to where Knight Ridder needed to go from a digital point of view wasn't a big super mystery, but there were still people torn, oh man, we could ride the newspaper side of this. I mean, we look at all this revenue,
Right.
Let's ride this as long as we possibly can. And we'll get into digital. Where Knight Ridder was headed was, man, we need to double down on digital in a big way. Not that we weren't going to protect this, but
They saw the writing on the wall.
they saw the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah.
Sold the company in 2006. The iPhone gets introduced the next year, which is so ironic if you think about it.
Yeah.
And then by 2010, the true handwriting was on the wall for the industry, because at that time, Google was beginning to share free news on Google, Facebook. For a long time, if you remember, Facebook didn't even have a revenue stream. They were just building,
Yes.
Yeah.
billions of people.
Correct.
And then they began to leverage it, and they let the cat out of the bag to say, all this time we've been collecting all this data and our ability to micro.
That was the big story. I remember for years with Facebook and all these social media platforms was like, how do we monetize?
Yeah, they had these.
We don't know, but
they
it's
had
like
these-
wildfire growing. So
Yeah,
they
these
just
billions of dollars of valuations and revenue they were not making any money.
That's right. That's right.
But man, they understood what they were doing. They were building this incredible database behind the scenes where they were going to be able to know everything about what they're doing and everything.
Right.
about
And they
what
did
you're
it
doing.
smart. They just dropped them off at colleges, like Ole Miss, Mississippi State, boom, 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 and it just
to get it off the ground. That's right. That is where
yeah.
it started. Yes, you're right.
So, I rode through that whole process, I left Sun Herald in 2009. So I was with McClatchy from 2006 to 2009. But, not to disparage the leadership, they just had their point of view about where they wanted to go. And they were not as committed to digital as Knight Ridder would have been. And
that strikes me as odd.
Let me tell you,
because they just raised all that money to buy Knight Ridder.
Yeah, let me tell you something really interesting.
This
is super inside baseball. But
Nice.
Knight Ridder publishers were, we were close. I mean, we worked together in a lot of ways. We had been through several, rounds of cuts and all these things that we were doing, trying to be more efficient. And Knight Ridder was on the cutting edge as it relates to all of that. So we knew each other really well, the corporate staff, and we were very close. Katrina made us closer.
Right.
There's just no way around that. So we go to our Knight Ridder is purchased. We go to our first meeting. We're out in, I think that first meeting was in San Diego, but somewhere in California.
Mm-hmm.
The Knight Ridder people are there, all the McClatchy people are there. Of course, we outnumbered the McClatchy people. And, there's some really sharp people in the room. And the CEO at the time, and I'm not going to even mention his name. It doesn't even really matter.
Yeah, this ain't about people.
He was kind of arrogant,
Yeah.
and he was disparaging to the prior management of Knight Ridder, and it left a bad taste in every publisher from Knight Ridder. And I don't know if he even realized what he did. And we all kind of left there. And a combination of strategically, I had my doubts. And then on top of that, it just sensed that they knew more than we knew, which
They thought they did.
they thought they did.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, within the next couple of years, I get an opportunity to go work for Advance. Advance Condé Nast is it's the largest privately owned media company in America. Became publisher in Mobile, with responsibilities for Mobile and Huntsville, Alabama. Oh, and incidentally, when I was here, I was offered a job to be an executive vice president for Knight Ridder, which would have meant moving my family to San Jose. I would have had 17 newspapers reporting to me. That just wasn't in the cards for me.
Yeah.
They did the full court press, and I said, man,
Sounds like work.
I
like those zeros. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, actually, it's interesting because in the wake of the sale that executive team did pretty well. And someone asked me one day, "Do you regret not coming? You had only been here a year." And I said, "No, no, I don't," because Katrina was a life-changing experience. The opportunity to be here as a leader and to be the publisher of the newspaper, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I mean, that was a very fulfilling thing. But what they did is they made me sort of a regional vice president. So the newspapers in Georgia and Florida, with the exception of Miami, reported to me in Biloxi. So when Katrina hit, I had those additional responsibilities. So then when I moved to Advance, had the same kind of setup where I had additional newspapers that I was responsible for. And then the company got super serious about moving to digital. I mean, like instead of doing.
What year is this?
This is 2010, 2011.
Okay, yeah. The flames are on the wall now. Like the smoke's in the room. We
got to change something. Quick.
The house ain't completely burnt down.
No,
but
the way they said it is, what we're going to do is they call it death by 1,000 cuts. We're going to continue to kind of have to trim down and trim down and trim down. Why don't we, while we're healthy, begin to reinvest in digital in a very big way? And what we did was shattering. I mean, it was a very significant move where we literally closed newspapers down and started new companies up and built digital capacity within those new companies. And the company has done really well since it went in that direction. Okay. New print was leaving, and it had, they were not hesitant when the print revenue began to fall to a certain point. The digital revenue is where it needed to be, shutting down newspapers and just running as a pure play digital company, which is what Advanced Locally is mostly today. So
I got a question. When the Knight Ridder, when they sold out, I got my notes over here. When Knight Ridder sold out to McClatchy, was that all of those newspapers that you mentioned, and not just the Sun Herald? Is that correct?
What they did, because of the way it works, there was some competing. There's some antitrust stuff that had to be. So there was some 2 or 3 newspapers got traded out and whatever. But at the end of the day, the bulk of Knight Ridder became McClatchy Company.
So it wasn't just the Sun Herald thing. It was lots of companies. Okay.
So McClatchy struggled and struggled and struggled, and then eventually they filed bankruptcy. And then eventually, I think the name of the company, Chatham Asset Management, owns them today. Mm-hmm. And it's a company. They do what they do. They go in and they continue to kind of wring out the costs and whatever. When I left the Sun Herald, there were over 50 people in the newsroom. Today there may be, I don't know the actual numbers, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And by the way, those that are there, if not all of them, at least most of them were there when I was there, and they were stars, part of that that Pulitzer Prize winning team. So I love them all, and I got to see them at their best. And this is not about them. It's really about what's happened to our industry.
Correct.
And how newspapers like the Sun Herald get sort of sucked up into that, the reality of, the vortex reality.
I think it's a lot of industries too. Yeah. We're just specifically talking about a local paper or media as a whole.
Yeah, media. Right, I mean, if you think the impact on media, on radio, and especially TV, I mean, TV's, you see a lot of them, but the major networks are doing kind of okay. Cable's doing relatively well. Local TV stations, they're having to really run. I mean, they're surviving, but the whole setup is different.
That's right. And a lot of as technology kills them, it also helps them in a little way. Yeah. Like with just for instance, like WLOX, that's all digital in there now. You don't have cameramen in there.
That's right.
You can really strip it down. Yeah. That's what technology does to industries, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. I mean,
it's good and bad.
Blockbuster. I mean, start naming them.
Right.
Oh, the last one just shut down like last year.
Yeah, there was one in like Alaska or something like that.
I mean, in our lifetime, I mean, there's never been anything like, I often refer to it as the digital tsunami. It's not just, it's and now AI and what's happening with AI. Well, I mean, listen, over the next 10 or 15 years, just in Mississippi, AI is going to probably reduce the number of jobs here by 30%.
I agree with. I believe that.
That's why it's important what Tate Reeves is doing today to bring in new industry, just keep bringing it in. We've got to diversify. We need more jobs, and hopefully by staying very aggressive in that way, we can minimize the impact. The other thing they've done, as you've read, is they've really embodied how jobs will change as it relates to AI, and they're building that into the universities now and colleges.
I hope so.
Very, very smart.
I hope so.
It's one of the reasons Coastal Mississippi's got to get moving. and start building some things.
I know Keesler did a little bit. Keesler brought in the AI stuff and web security and all that stuff. But we
Keesler
Air Force Base. Yeah, the Cybersecurity Center is a big deal, actually. And it's a big collaboration of universities, Keesler's, the military, and so on. But AI is a big deal. So you move from what was this digital tsunami into AI that's literally going to change the world faster than most people realize.
Way faster.
And here we are.
Yeah, because AI has the potential to really wreck Google. Yeah, which, like you mentioned, Google
it already is having an impact.
Yes, and we can get into that too. But I want to back up just a little bit and go back to for us, the layman over here.
Yeah,
a publisher. That's what was your title.
Yeah.
Can you explain the role of a publisher at the Sun Herald when you were there, and then also across the country, like how that works?
Well, so the title is president and publisher. So as a president, I have fiduciary responsibilities for the company.
So you're a finance guy, in addition
to
the
whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to deliver, and that's how you keep your job, and that's how you keep a healthy company. And but I think the way that Roland Weeks, my predecessor, who was my mentor, I think the way he described it was really good. He said that a publisher wears 3 hats. You have the fiduciary responsibilities. You have the First Amendment obligation, which newspapers uniquely have this incredible, important role that it plays. And then you're a community leader. And oftentimes those hats are going to be in conflict with one another, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And, I've faced that many, many times when you write a negative story that might impact one of your advertisers, and the wall between the advertising division of the company and the freedom of a newsroom to be able to operate in a way that can really serve the community and report what's happening in the community. It means you got to make some tough decisions sometimes.
Yeah. That's a good point. I do another podcast with music, and one of the things, like, people talk about, let's do some music reviews. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going out and reviewing somebody's music to say something negative about it, especially if I know the person or I'm affiliated with it. I could never do that. You had to do that.
Yeah, we did. Michael Sunderman and I were having this conversation one time, and he said, the difference between what I do with South Mississippi Living and Jackpot Magazine and all that is my job's about making everybody happy.
Build everything up.
And in my job, you're going to make people mad. And I mean, you're going to make people happy too, don't get me wrong. And most people really understood that the role the newspaper played to have a public conversation, to share both sides, to have an objective point of view, to have the editorials on the editorial page and not mixed in, to work hard to have objectivity and all of that was really a big part of what we were doing. And people generally appreciated that. All of that is faded in the reality of where we are today, sadly, but that's just the way it is. But I'll give you the example. We did, when I was in New Orleans, and I had similar situations here, but I was in New Orleans. We had a headline that a car dealer didn't like, a headline, and he pulled $1 million worth of advertising.
Holy smokes.
And then what do you do in the next fiduciary meeting when you have to explain
You explain the situation.
About that.
Well, I mean, in that particular case, we sat with him, and we went to lunch with him, and we talked and we listened, and we explained, and eventually he came back, but not at that same level he was at before.
Yeah,
it's part of the deal, man. You got to go figure out if you have somebody drop. I mean, there's not a lot of excuses.
Fill somebody up. Yeah.
You go launch a product, go find a new. You got to figure that out. And that's the reality of the business. That's a unique thing. You think about it. I mean, if you're a car dealer, all you're trying to do is make everybody happy, and there's a chance you could maybe piss off 50% of your customers with one story. Think about that for a minute. But your goals, you have a board that you report to. Your goals are still the same.
You said as a car dealer. You mean as the publisher?
No, I meant as a car dealer. If you're a car, and all you got to do is
I thought you were talking about you just there. Okay.
No, but I'm saying if you're a car dealer, they're just trying to make everybody happy.
Right.
But what if you're a car dealer and you did something that pissed off 50% of your customers?
Gotcha.
In one fell swoop.
Gotcha.
And it'll say you report as a car dealer to your owner who's not interested in hearing 50%.
I don't care about that. Just show me the bottom line.
That's right.
Yeah.
How are you going to fix this? I don't care about it.
Now, look, the interesting thing about our industry, at least in those days, was they understood that they really valued great journalism. And if what happened was the practice of great journalism that happened, there's some understanding about that. They're going to be a lot less tolerant if it's stupidity or an error,
something you put on there,
something bad. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I think journalism is another thing that's like, is it a lost art? Do we just not see it as much?
No, I think you probably see it more than you realize, but here's the sad reality is that most of the journalism was practiced by newspapers. Okay. So you think about it, we had 50 resources in our newsroom. That's when I left. There was a time when it had nearly 100. Okay.
Are we talking writers? We're talking
editors, writers, graphic people, the whole nine. Editorial, right? But if you take all the other reporters for all the other media in the market and add them up, they still didn't equal how many the newspaper had. So newspapers have always had a unique responsibility. I mean, we were covering city hall meetings. Mm-hmm. We would send somebody there, just sit there. We were covering just about every high school sports team.
Right.
I mean, the amount of resources it took to accomplish that, but we had the money to do it. So we did it. And we had the readership that went along with that. So over time that began to dwindle. And we're where we are today.
Yeah, and I take that back too, because I'm thinking of it like in the avenue of papers, which don't exist so much anymore, and then also like cable news. I watch a lot of Fox News, but even when I agree with them on a lot of things, I'm looking at it like this is not journalism. This is being told what to think, and I do agree with you, but this is different. This has changed.
So we'll take aside for cable for just a second, because if you think about cable news, when it emerged, when Ted Turner created CNN. It was going to be this around-the-clock news thing. I mean, that's all it was going to be is news around. And they were CNN
at first.
Was good.
At first,
man.
It was.
Remember the first Gulf War in the 1990s?
Yes.
When they were there and unbelievable coverage. But what happened over time as other competitors began to emerge, they needed, they got to where doing that 24-hour news and keeping it fresh was very difficult and very expensive. So what they ended up doing was having talking heads.
Right.
That's the way they.
Here's the story. We told you the story, but now let's talk about the story. And I'm going to tell you what I think about this.
Yeah. So if you like, for example, Trey Inks and the reporting from the Middle East for Fox.
Okay.
If you watch his reporting, there's not bias in his report. Trey is giving you the facts. I think when you look at Fox News's news coverage, they do a pretty good job of covering news as news. And then, of course, the people that you watch during the day are people who have opinions about the news.
Right.
I think CNN on especially international stories does a really good job of covering news items. Okay. But what's happened with CNN, they've been so infiltrated with sort of a liberal bent. And now people say, oh, no, well, that's Fox News. Well, certainly Fox News.
Correct.
No, yeah.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. Yeah. It's kind of like
across the board.
It almost looks like it's designed to split everybody.
It is.
Whether that's a natural occurring thing or if you want to get into conspiracy theories or not, right?
Well, I mean, it's corporate media. And it's, I tell you a quick story. After Hurricane Katrina, and I try to remember his name, it's a very well-known reporter for NBC. And if I recall it, you'll know the name if I say it. He came to the Sun Herald. And Stan said, well, this reporter's here. I said, really? From NBC? That's great. Because we had them coming in. What happened actually is that there were lots of them there in the day after Hurricane Katrina. Yeah. And we were putting them up and putting, sleeping bags in our conference room, and they were just showing up. It was unbelievable. As soon as the levees broke in New Orleans,
gone.
If you were standing near one of the back entrances, you would have been killed by the sucking sound of the reporters leaving us. It's really an incredible thing. Yeah. So in the days and weeks later, a lot of the narratives that they were developing were coming out of New Orleans. All the issues that surrounded New Orleans, a very unique situation. But they were trying to lay that narrative on top of the Sun Herald. On top of our community. I'll give you the example. Okay. So this reporter comes from NBC, and he tells us that his producers in New York want him to do a story about us bulldozing African American and Vietnamese homes on the Point of Biloxi. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. We're not bulldozing African American Vietnamese homes in Biloxi. There are debris lines there, and I'll take you there. I'm going to take you there and show you what's happening. But there's no. And he said to make way for casinos is what he said. I said, no, that's not what's happening. That's where my wife's mother. My wife grew up on the Point of Biloxi. Her mother's house was destroyed. 9 of 11 homes in my family were destroyed. But I took him to my mother-in-law's house, where it used to be. Yeah. It literally was
just a slab.
Not even a slab.
Oh, it's a raised house.
It was one of the older homes.
Right.
But, and I explained the whole thing to him. And he said, man, I got it. I said, my goodness. He said, this is not the story they told me to come do. I said, well, I'm glad that you know that now. So please, don't create problems for us. He said, okay, I won't. He goes, starts to leave. And before he leaves, he's there for 2 or 3 days. Before he leaves, he walks into my office and said, I need to tell you something. I said, what? He says, they didn't change the frame on the story.
Wow.
They're still doing the story that they sent me to do. Think about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was NBC News.
Right.
Yeah.
So NBC does this story. The Washington Post watches the story. They write an editorial about it.
Sweet.
Based on that story.
No fact checking.
Yeah.
Well, so the Graham family owned the Washington Post, and as time would have it, the next week, Ashton Felix at the time was a publisher, and at the Times-Picayune, and I presented to the National Newspaper Publishers Meeting, 1,000 publishers in the room, telling the Katrina story. And Graham, what's his first name? But anyway, at the time, the CEO of Washington Post Company, he literally chases me down. And just to tell you, this is way too much information, but as I'm starting to talk, I realize I forgot to go to the bathroom. So I got to pee like a racehorse. And I haven't even started my speech. 30-minute speech.
Holy
and I'm hurting. I'm hurting before I even start to open my mouth.
That's not a good place to be.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
So when I got done, man, I literally
beelined it out of there.
Was running to the bathroom, and I felt somebody running behind me.
Right.
And it was the CEO of Washington Post Company.
And you gonna have to come in here with me, man.
I said, man, just hang tight 1 second.
Yeah, there's a situation right now.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
When I came out, he said, man, I just wanted to tell you, I apologize for that editorial. We wrote an editorial responding to their editorial.
Okay.
And he apologized. And I said, you know what? You know what you need to do? You need to come visit me in Biloxi. Why don't you come down there and just see for yourself? I mean, in the scheme of your world, I know that's not a big deal, but think about what you did and think about what you forced us to do to have to write an editorial responding to you. And he said, okay, I'm going to do that. I said, well, that's awesome. And we'll exchange some information and I look forward to helping you.
Yeah.
Never heard from him. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was definitely never coming down here.
He knew he was
and that was then. And I think about it now at a digital age where there is less human contact. Things just get written, they get copied, shared, repeated.
Nobody even looks at it.
So, and one of the things, the Knight Foundation, and I was privileged to be the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee. The original Knight communities were part of the Knight Foundation. And when the Knight brothers died, they put all their money into this foundation. And they use it to help local journalism and other things in the community. The Knight's Nonprofit Center, gave over $3 million for that. For the Governor's Commission, gave $1 million to help have the Governor's Commission as a private entity instead of having to take state dollars to do it. Yeah. Okay. The Knight Foundation came through in coastal Mississippi in amazing ways. Alberto Bargan, my dear friend, he was here the week after Katrina, and you ought to hear him talk about what he learned and what it meant to him. But yeah, so yeah, it was a crazy time, man.
Yeah. And going back to that journalism comment that I made, I think a lot of it now. So what happened is like, it's decentralized now a lot more than it is like a big newsroom. And I think a lot of that actual hardcore journalism has gone to the independent person with a YouTube channel. Yeah. And it's very fractured and hyper specific, which I think is also sometimes good. Yeah. Actually, I think most of the time it's good. Yeah. But that's how it's changed, I feel like.
Yeah. See, like, for example, Charlie Kirk would have never been able to be the Charlie Kirk without his digital chops. And
100%. Yeah. You'd read about him.
We wouldn't even know who he was.
Yeah, you'd read about him a week later. Yeah, like, right. Well, who's going on?
Who is this guy? Yeah. But yeah, it's amazing what's happened in that regard. And the one point I wanted to make about the Knight Foundation that I want to make sure we don't lose is that they were investing, and they still continue to invest in local communities to try to figure out what's the model that will work, that will allow us not to lose that journalism, because we need it, man. It's about creating sunshine on the public process, and we're missing that. I think the Sun Herald and others do the best they can under the circumstances, but it allows for lots of underhanded things to happen. It allows for corruption. There's a lot that can happen. And we're not where we need to be as a community when we don't have that piece.
What do you think the answer is?
I really don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, there have been efforts that have risen that have been funded by rich people, and that's good, but it's not sustainable without rich people continuing to give. So people have tried models that are advertising based models, but it ends up being one or two people, and doing the best they can. For this is a complicated place. Coast of Mississippi is a really complicated place. If you just take the 6 coast counties, that's 22 separate political subdivisions. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
So it's one of the best things going for us is that we're a collection of small communities, each with its unique sense of place. But at the same time, we're the powerful region.
Right.
We're the economic engine for Mississippi. And so that could be the best thing about us, that we're this divided, or not. Let's say divide is not the word I want to use, but this beautiful collection of communities.
Diverse.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's hard to get us all on the same page.
Right.
That's always been a big challenge. And that's one of the reasons I think the Governor's Commission did a great job of bringing us together. But yeah, so it's a complicated place. So it takes a lot to cover that from a journalistic point of view.
Yeah. I like what you said earlier too, about when they wrote it was NBC that wrote the piece, and then the Washington Post put the editorial, then you had to do your editorial. That's, to me, First Amendment at work.
It is.
Right. Now, granted,
agree.
your reach was probably a little smaller than NBC's and the Washington Post, but that's how it's designed. You say something that's not right, I call you out on it. You're a third party, and maybe we're both a little right, or maybe I was really lying. And that's public discord, right?
No. I think that's a beautiful way to observe, and I think that's exactly right. And we weren't really interested in changing the course of history for NBC,
correct,
or Washington Post, but we wanted our community to have it reflected. And the thing to keep in mind, we're part of Knight Ridder, and Knight Ridder had mega national chops. So a lot of the news coming out of this arena was going to these other newspapers. So at least in the Knight Ridder markets, they were hearing about the challenges that we face as a result of Hurricane Katrina. But yeah, it's still a major challenge. One of the sad things about it, though, is when a story like that is done, there's a perception about Mississippi because of our ugly history. And in reality, our ugly history actually forced us to come together in ways that most people don't really recognize. And I say it on my show all the time that there's a uniqueness about us, what's in our heart and souls. When a storm hits or challenges happen in our community, bosses aren't there and workers aren't there, and Democrats and Republicans. It's just us together, neighbors helping neighbors. And for people who came from the outside after Hurricane Katrina and saw that, it was unbelievable to them. Still is. When there's a tornado in Mississippi or whatever the situation might be, people leave here and say, my God, the city or the state I expected to see when I got here is not what I saw. Yeah, man, this has been amazing. So when an NBC does a story like that, it does terrible for us in terms of driving preconceived notions about ourselves that we don't deserve. That's right. The point. So,
that's right. No, I agree with that. I mean, I say it all the time. When you see Mississippi mentioned in the national news, 9 times out of 10, it's for some racist thing that's like not good looking for us, whether it's true or not. I'm sure there's a lot of gray area in what they report. Yeah. But that's the case. You just like come here and check it out.
Or they don't they don't even mention Mississippi. We're just the landmass.
Well, that's the landmass between
Louisiana and Alabama.
We saw it with the hanging of the young man in Delta State.
Yeah.
And you saw what happened as far as that was concerned, and they have it on video. Right. So thank goodness.
Right. But that would have been spun a different way. Everybody would believe it.
What's crazy is the same day there was another hanging in Vicksburg that you wouldn't even have heard of unless it was piggybacked off of this one at Delta State.
Yeah, so I have friends of mine in California sending me the kind of things that were being shared in California about Mississippi. That was all about Mississippi burning, and it was just so hard to.
And we haven't even put the layer on top of like foreign money that comes into the country to perpetuate those types of stories in a California to point back at us and just keep the country divided. That we know that ain't even a tinfoil hat thing. We know that's true.
No, I mean, look. From the very beginning, and of course, me having the opportunity to run a digital company, and we had teams of people that did nothing but Facebook algorithm, learning about that, understanding how this whole digital advertising world was changing dramatically, the kind of data they were collecting on us. I mean, if the average person really understood what they're able to track on you,
it's unbelievable. And that's just the legal stuff that Facebook and all the Googles and
you're giving
TikTok,
in when you use
when you hit that user agreement. That's the legal stuff, not to mention the government stuff that they did with the Snowden report that you can read about that to know what they're doing.
So what happens is, as Facebook began to really understand data and how they were going to be able to do targeting, I mean really sophisticated targeting using their ad server, to be able to serve you an ad because you fit a certain profile, but not you won't get the same ad at that kind of micro level. That was really incredible. Right. However, what they ended up doing, the algorithm that drove that, they ended up using it to also determine what was in our feed.
Correct. Confirmation bias and
that was a big deal. So it's not just about you finding a lot of people who think like you, which they will help you do that. But when there is a stoked conversation, the more engagement there is, the more disagreement there is, the more money they make.
Oh, for sure.
So they make money off of us being divided.
That's right. What a great segue into where I wanted to go with this. But so we started this whole thing off with the Sun Herald, and I got some pictures I'm going to show here in just a second. But I go on their Facebook page today, and as we record, this is the 25th of September. The particular post that I want to talk about was made on the 10th. I had to go through all their entire feed on Facebook. Not a lot of engagement. Not a lot of comments. Not a lot of likes. Not a lot of nothing. This particular post, 230 comments, ton of engagement. Now, as well as I do, that drives traffic, that can drive ads, that can drive all kind of money, clicks, right?
Click. Yeah.
Well, on let's just say anything that stokes pissed off people.
Correct.
Emotions. It's anything emotions. That does. And look, I would say that the folks actually sitting at the Sun Herald, when something like that occurs, they would have rather that not get stoked. They would rather in the old days, we could pull it from the Sun Herald. We could pull it from the Sun Herald website, or we actually had people moderating the comments. I mean, think about that. We actually moderated comments because if it was over the top, we would delete the comments, and there's no moderation of comments anymore unless you obviously threaten to kill the president or something. Right. That.
But when you're talking about removing comments and moderate, what year is this and what platform are you talking about?
I'm talking sunherald.com. Back before social media when you commented at sunherald.com.
Yeah.
Tremendous engagement.
Yeah.
But and then eventually that commenting was being moderated centrally, and then they outsourced it. And then, laying out the newspaper ended up getting outsourced or put into a central location. And then managing the website ended up getting to a central location. So where we are, the evolution, what the Sun Herald actually controls going onto their website, is not a whole lot these days. A lot of decisions are being made about what's in the Sun Herald and what's at sunherald.com by people at this central location.
Okay. Let me share real quick what started this whole
episode. It's supposed to be a local paper, and it's coming from Kansas City.
Every newspaper is in that same position though, sadly.
For sure. And so maybe I should lead with the video first. I'll lead with that. I want to go over all this, and I want you to, if you can, break it down. I don't know how much you still know about the Sun Herald currently. If you could break down that model once we're done. And then we're going to go back to you because you're in the digital business now too. You're in the digital age with us. So let me first play this video. I'm going to set this up. If you've never seen this video before, I hope it scares the shit out of you. This video is 7 years old. And it goes to show you what happens when all of the local news stations from all across the country are bought up by one or two or three, I don't know the number, central. What's the word I'm looking for here? Conglomerate.
It's a centralized news operation.
Right. Okay. And this is what happens. So if you've never seen anything like this before, this is a real video that I think it's Deadspin is the YouTube channel. 7 years ago, they went and clipped all of these local news. So for us, it's WLOX. You see it at the 4 o'clock show, the 5 o'clock show. They went all from different counties, different states, and they put this little montage together. It's 1 minute and 39 seconds. Let's listen to it.
Hi, Lee. Wolf. Balance.
Action.
This is dangerous. Extremely to our democracy.
Dangerous to our democracy.
Love it. That
To our
manufacturing consent. Is that
dangerous
right?
to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
So if that doesn't scare the shit out of you, and that's 7 years old, I don't know what does.
That's
I mean, that's like CIA programming. I mean, like mass media manipulation. That looks like something right out of what was the movie? Oh gosh, V for Vendetta. You know, that style of thing where the government's just got the little meetings and they try to control everybody. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying that's government involved. That's probably more capitalistic corporations involved, but it's not good.
Well, look, it's interesting. I keep copious notes of most of what I'm thinking, and every single show I've ever done, I have notes on all over approaching 1,700.
Wow.
All in my phone. And one of the things I gathered was to try to understand where Gray Television, that the owner of WLOX, fits in. Mm-hmm. Okay, now this is from November last year, so there could have been some changes. But Sinclair, it's been in the news, Sinclair, 150 stations across the country. Mm-hmm. Nexstar Media Group, 150 stations across the country. Gray Media, that owns WLOX, 131 stations across the country.
Right.
So as the relationship between these various TV stations used to be, the major networks paid them a ton of money. I mean, the whole financial arrangement has changed dramatically. Mm-hmm. So the way that they're able to get to a point where they're making more money is they centralize as much as they possibly can, and that's what happens when certain aspects of their news operation is centralized. Exactly what you just saw right there.
That's it.
If you would see it today, you see the same thing today. If you
like I said, that video was posted 7 years ago.
So would the owner of the company is just sending that out?
Well, and just to kind of be maybe semi-fair, and correct me if I'm wrong here too, there's probably always been, even when you were at the Sun Herald or on like WLX, like the news on television, there's always been central national stories that get disseminated out.
Yeah.
Right. That's a kind of an okay thing.
Yeah.
But when it starts becoming every story, the vast majority of stories.
So in this particular case, my sense is that probably what happened is someone in a key role worked with some of the TV stations and said, one of our corporate initiatives is going to be around democracy. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to roll that out across all the areas. It's not like they're necessarily telling them, okay, we want you to cover this particular news item, and not focus as a result on the local community. I think they're still doing that, but the ability to push some kind of corporate narrative down.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'm just thinking all of them got the same email saying,
no, definitely the script was the same.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's probably one story out of 6 stories that night that was on the news. Now, whether that was the largest story or the one that got the most time or whatever, but I definitely agree with that. But then it becomes of like a situation where it's like, well, who's making the decision as to what's prioritized? What rooms are they in when they make those decisions, and how does that get disseminated?
Well, see what they do. Okay, so if you look at their plan for tonight's newscast, they'll say local, mm-hmm. commercial, local. Okay, national. There's going to be a national. Then they have a national news desk that's feeding into that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's how that story.
Right.
That's how that comes about. And we did the same thing at the Sun Herald.
Right.
Okay?
I don't think it's a problem until it becomes 3 companies. Nationwide, right? Or what you see what I'm saying? Like the more, even though it is still centralized in these pockets, there still used to be a lot of pockets, correct?
Yeah.
Now, if you got 3 companies doing the whole entire United States, or 4 or 5 or 10, whatever it is.
I think what was troubling about this particular thing, and because that traveled the internet in a big
way,
it
was it was huge.
Was that it was at the time there was this whole notion about with Trump and threatened democracy and all this stuff. People, just the language itself seemed exacerbating, and seemed to say, we agree that where we're headed is a place that's going to affect democracy.
That's done nothing but get worse.
It's gotten
completely worse.
Yeah,
and there's already been montages just in the past 2 weeks since Charlie Kirk's passing of people saying that, he's a Nazi, threat to democracy, take action, storm the, if you see him in restaurants, make noise and all that kind of stuff there. So I don't dig that either.
Yeah. We could go off on a major tangent with Charlie, but the one thing about Charlie that I think I went to a football game last night. My grandson was playing. It was just young football team, and I heard somebody, Ricky, and I've written a couple columns about Charlie, and she said, I finally sat down today and read your columns. I said, well, thank you. She said, I didn't really know who he was. I maybe I've heard his name, but I've been studying him now for 2 weeks since he died.
Correct.
And then I read your columns, and she said, thank you so much for putting it out there that way. Charlie, man, what he was doing was incredible. Now you can disagree with everything, every position he had, but you cannot disagree with what he was attempting to do and how he did it respectfully.
Correct.
And people were just buying into these negative talking points that were being somebody said, I can tell you, it was Mark Henderson that used to have Magnolia Brewery, and just brilliant digital and technology mind. He said, what concerns him, he said this many years ago, he said, what concerns me is that people wake up every day waiting to be told what they're going to think today.
Correct.
And I think a lot of that happened in the wake of Charlie. If people would just slow down and study him and understand what he stood for, especially if you're a Christian and you believe in God and you see how it all connects. Again, you still may not completely agree with everything he did. Yeah. You would admire what he was trying to do.
He was strong in his faith.
There's no doubt.
Super strong in his faith.
No doubt about that. Yeah. But I've even seen I'll call it an infographic, a picture of him with a saying taken out of context. Because now I'm like the person you were referring to. Yeah. I've spent 2 weeks. I already knew who he was. I'd already watched a bunch of his debates, the little clips and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't feel that I saw his religious stuff as heavy as I'm seeing it now, which I'm thankful for that. But I agree. They cherry pick what he said, or they cut it off right before he makes the point. And to me, that is absolutely disingenuous, and that's a lie.
But we live in a world where people don't have open minds, Jared. That's the problem. We live in a world that once you align with your tribe, that's where you stay.
Well, that goes back to the point that you made, though, about the echo chamber that social media algorithms create. Yeah. And if you're already a fractured mind or a weak-minded individual,
go one way or the other.
And you're constantly going down that rabbit hole that I think this shooter guy was, and seeing things that aren't real.
There's no doubt.
Being manipulated.
And then the shooting in Texas. I mean, it's a copycat.
Correct.
I mean, they know that it is.
Correct.
It's a tough war. I'm in a unique position because I spent a whole career trying to see both sides. I mean, I did. But man, when I watch what's happening with social media, when I see this divided country, and when I know the majority of Americans are somewhere near the middle, there's either center right or center left, and the 10% on the outside of either side are deciding the debates.
100%.
What's happened, and my friends on the left aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but what's happened is that the 10% on the left, because they're flailing now because Trump won and they're trying to figure out what they want to do, has snuck in. It's infiltrated all of the thinking, a lot of the thinking, not all of it, of a lot of these other people. So instead, it used to be 10% over here. Now it's kind of mainstream to think those things. So to say that Trump is a Nazi and that Charlie Kirk was a Nazi.
Right.
I mean, think about that for a minute. How in the hell can you call Charlie Kirk a Nazi?
To me,
a racist? He wasn't a racist either.
No, he wasn't. And I want to touch on that point. I look at it like this too. I am not Jewish, and to my knowledge, none of my ancestors are Jewish. But if I was, especially if I was, I don't know that any Holocaust survivors are still alive. There may be a few, but if I had like a one removed relative, I would be so pissed off the way that Nazi term has been diluted and thrown around, because that is a real thing with some real hardcore tragedies. And people say, well, even the Nazis started somewhere. It's like, okay, but we're not there yet. So let's quit throwing that word around all the time.
Camps
it's diluting it. It's diluting it.
And it doesn't. But either side is blaming the other, but most of the violence is coming from one side right now. And that's
so as a right-leaning person who even I thought I was more moderate just a few years ago, but shit's getting so weird nowadays. Who knows? But like, it's on both sides. It is. I think it's skewed 100%. To one side than the other. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, let's maybe not try to like politicize it as much. And let's just figure out what the core root of the problem is. And let's see how we can come together as Americans, which is what I think Charlie was trying to do.
He was trying to do it.
And let's do it through open dialogue and through intelligence, which a lot of these college-age kids that he spoke with, you could watch them walk up to a microphone and regurgitate a talking point and then have no rebuttal to it.
Yeah. Well, look, my wife and I have paid attention to Charlie for a long time, and I've followed him for years. I was always fascinated, number one, with his mind.
Yeah.
But I have known some really, really smart people who can remember a lot of stuff, but they didn't really have the ability.
Not charismatic.
Yeah.
Or the ability to offer it back to someone in an argument that they can understand and that you respect them and you know what they need in this moment. You may need the next. Charlie's ability to do that was really incredible.
He had a lot of empathy.
Kind of not even dumb it down, but just put it in layman's terms. So where you can
I'm glad you brought that up. There was a trans person that came up and asked him a question, and his first response to them was, "Do you mind if I ask you your story?"
I love that.
That clip is amazing.
So well. And he said, I hope that you can work on your mind and be comfortable with your body. And this person was very receptive to what he was saying.
Yeah.
So,
and to me, not to cut you off, but like that to me is the dialogue that people need to have. And going back to even like the topic of like, just because we already mentioned he's a Christian, right? In his faith, he viewed homosexuality as not the way you should go.
Yeah.
But he had those people at his events. He did not shun them from the conservative movement.
He gave them a mic.
Correct. And
some of his best friends were gay.
Yes.
So I mean, it's not,
But the point I was going to say is that would be an issue that if you are homosexual, that you would say, "Hey, Charlie, like I don't agree with your stance on that because that's not how I feel." And even he would say, "That's okay. That's where we can disagree. I'm not going to change because of my faith. You don't, I would hope that you do, but if you don't, I'm not trying to put you in prison or take away your rights or anything like that." But I've seen clips in infographics, for lack of a better term, that say the opposite of that.
Yeah. So my wife sends me a text and she says Charlie Kirk got shot. She had just heard it, and I'm a former paramedic and I hunt. So,
you saw the video.
You knew that was.
I mean, immediately.
Same.
I immediately went to X, and I mean, the very first thing I saw was somebody had just posted the video. It hadn't been up there. It had been up there seconds.
Yes,
seconds. I saw the video. I texted Ann back. I saw the video. Don't watch it. There's literally
45
no way.
seconds.
I work in healthcare. Same thing I said, because in the news they were still saying he was rushed to the hospital. He's in critical condition.
I'm like,
they were just no way in hell
trying to assess the scene and get everything under control. They knew he was.
Well, he was in the hospital, and they probably were.
They did get his heart. They get his heart to beat again because there was literally no chance he was.
I'm surprised they even did that.
Yeah,
and that was probably pharmacologically induced. If I had to,
my sense is they probably went in there and they probably cut immediately to try to understand, can we pinch off the carotid and the jugular, but the amount of damage that it did. And of course, it didn't have an exit wound. And it came in at that angle. So when it hit here, it lodged, I'm sure, in the spine. We'll learn more as we learn all of that. And you've seen hunting before when you didn't have an exit wound,
right?
And the damage it does, it just absolutely destroy. And the neck, man,
it's bad. It's bad.
It's gushing.
There was no way he was going to live. So the combination of that video and what I had known about him for years. This guy was. I told this is long before he died. I said, this kid's a prophet. He's a prophet.
I don't think I saw as much of his religious stuff clips. I definitely knew about it, but I went on a deep dive now. And I texted to our group today. I was like, I don't want to go too far here, but like, that's what it seems like.
Yeah. So, prophet-like.
Right. There you go. I could prophet-like.
A savant that has the ability to communicate with people and all of this. So the next morning I wrote this column, long before all we know now, but I said, what's going to happen to his mission? What's going to happen?
Like wildfire.
Yeah.
I wrote about that, and this is the morning after, because we didn't sleep good the night.
I read your article about not being able to go to sleep that night.
And look what has happened. You know, over 100. I think there are 120,000 requests now for turning point.
Yes, and Oklahoma just allowed it at all their schools, public schools.
Yeah, it's going to be a movement like we've never seen before. And
that's true.
Now what do you know? If you're leaning left and to the left, what do you make of that?
It's tough.
I think that's the beauty of this country. I mean, we need those people on that side, the moderates, because like you said, it's what we're making these numbers up. 10% is on the extreme sides of each side. They don't represent the entire Democratic Party.
They're the one to get the camera off.
What I see on the they need a lot of work on that side. They need to come with some ideas and some new stuff. But like,
I have some friends I have some great friends who are Democrats, but the way I would describe them, they're more like Delta Democrats. That's what they call them in the Mississippi Delta, and that is they're pro-gun. They're against abortion.
That used to be a thing,
you know. Yeah. They understand the role that social programs and the government has in our world.
Correct.
And you know what's interesting? I was always I don't know that I gave deep thought to that issue of social in the way that I probably should as a leader. But then when Katrina hit, then it became this equal opportunity destroyer. It changed the definition of poor. Then I realized, holy mackerel, we're toast if we can't get billions of dollars from the government. Then I started to understand that I'm more of a moderate. From a business point of view, I think the government should stay out of business. And it ain't the perfect system in the world, but it's the best.
Right.
It's not a perfect system, but it's the best in the world. Let entrepreneurship and innovation and business grow. That's create jobs that help people realize their dreams. I'm all for that. Okay. But Katrina helped me to realize that there's another role to play as well. And government has played so much of a role in that area that it's created generations of poverty. So we have to figure this out. We have to figure out where that middle ground is. And when I talk to my Democratic friends, we agree on almost everything, except they hate Trump a lot.
Right. Right.
Okay? They hate Trump a lot.
Right.
So they would lean, because of their hatred of Trump, they would lean even more toward not liking Charlie Kirk.
Correct.
Because Charlie Kirk helped get Trump elected.
That's right.
So yeah, how do you sort through it all, man?
I don't know. I do believe open dialogue, like he was doing, though. I do believe that's the way. You know, when people start walling themselves off and stop talking to the other side, it's never. Well,
it's like he said, when we stop talking is when we get civil war.
Correct.
And then the irony is he gets killed for it,
and then to watch his wife forgive the shooter.
She watched him get murdered.
Yeah,
his kids sitting there.
I want to bring it on screen. I mentioned I was going to do it real quick because it's Charlie Kirk. We're talking about it, but I'm going to read out the post that stemmed this whole thing. I'm going to break it down real quick, and then Ricky, if you can help us with this too. So you won't see it, but this was the original post that spawned this whole episode here. Let me click. Right. So the Sun Herald posted, I believe this was at 6-ish, 7 in the evening, if I remember correctly, because I looked this all up today. It says, the shooting of a right-wing provocateur has shocked the right from a sane Mitt Romney to the unbalanced Donald Trump. And then it immediately after that says opinion. So they do show it as an opinion piece. Okay. And then below, I guess the subheading or the actual, that's the post for Facebook. This is the title of the article. The title says, "Shooting of Minch Charlie Kirk, a danger each time he was on campus." And so we were talking about it before we went live.
We had no idea what Minch meant.
I had to look up what Minch meant. I will be fully honest on that. I thought it was a derogatory term. It is not. It is a term of endearment. But I feel like there's a missing comma somewhere in there.
Yeah. So
the way I read it was that
maybe a missing word. But it's interesting. I actually I don't often post about the Sun Herald, but I saw the furor and. Lots of people. Everybody, it's just so interesting because they send me notes like there's something I can do about it. I haven't been to the Sun since 2000.
I don't work there anymore.
Yeah, it's your fault. It's like, dude, I haven't worked here since.
But really, what they want to do is they need somebody to talk to, and they want to think about it. They want to work through it. And the Minch thing actually concerned me a little less than the headline above it.
Correct.
It felt
politicized,
so demeaning.
Yes.
It was politicized in a very demeaning way. They had to say something bad about the president within the guidelines.
Correct.
And I felt like that was kind of out of touch with this market.
Yes.
Okay. So my point was, this is what happens when those kind of decisions are made in some central location, and that happens a lot. And I often listen. one of the cool things, we can come to this eventually, but one of the cool things about getting to know SuperTalk Mississippi is they have a news operation, and 100% of the news from Mississippi that's developed by news reporters that they have on their staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that's on that site. So you're not going to find news from Indiana.
Gotcha.
I often say,
Gotcha.
Homegrown.
It's homegrown stuff. And of course, JT Mitchell, who's the news director there, will say, well, you'll see Indiana news if there's a Mississippi connection.
Mm-hmm.
But
correct. That makes sense.
I'll explain. We'll come back to this in a minute. I'll explain that to you. But they're not doing what SuperTalk is doing. They're filling your feeds full of news coming from all these other,
correct,
McClatchy and other companies.
I saw that today
Clickbait.
as I had to go. I had to scroll back
100%.
through to get to this article, right? Because that's been 10ish, more than 10 days as we record today. But like you're right, it's a lot of like, you can tell it's clickbait style stuff. It is still some local news, but it's a lot of stuff that's just, you can tell they're sharing that because they think it's going to get some traction, but it's not from around here. It's not local news. Right?
Yeah, they're trying to get as many, because there's another thing, and we won't get into the detail about it, but third-party data, which a lot of companies purchase in order to do their advertising with, that's going away. So you need to have primary information. You have first-party data. So this is allowing them, even though it's a story from Indiana, it's allowing them to capture a lot of first-party data
and throw us in different categories as to who does what.
When you add it all up, it adds up to a lot of information. Now, look, this is where it bothers me, and at the end of the day, this is where my mind is trained. Mm-hmm. Like when I see a headline at WLOX or the Sun Herald or any other paper that I look at, but especially let's say the Sun Herald, and it says, man arrested for molesting child. Mm-hmm. Immediately I'm drawn to it.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
it's a protective instinct.
Who did that, and where do they live? What town in coastal Mississippi live in? Yeah. Now read it. It's a guy in California.
Correct.
And I care about molestation, but I don't give a crap that it happened.
Right.
I mean, I hope in California they deal with that.
Yeah.
But
if it's not my neighborhood or it's somewhere I'm at,
right. People want to know what's going on around them.
Correct.
Okay?
And it also makes, I guess it's good and bad, because then you really see what's going on nationwide and how often that really does happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm like you. I'm like, I understand that, and I don't want that to happen, but I want to know Mississippi news. Yeah. And if I don't need to know about every single bad thing that's going on every day, like on other parts of the country in my local network.
Yeah. So Jared, what happened? We did readership studies every 2 or 3 years at the Sun Herald, and we went deep. And one of the things we learned is that when you're young, you don't care about news.
No.
Some people do, but most people don't.
No.
But when you get married and start to have kids, you start paying attention.
Your worldview changes.
Yeah,
it does, and you want to know what's going on at that school. Okay, now I'm a little bit more locked on now to law enforcement and the fire departments and insurance need, all these things that you can get from local news operations. So that's how newspapers were successful, by covering all of those details.
Right.
And the older you get, the more you paid attention to that stuff.
That's right. I'm going to bring.
That's why my grandma had 70,000 Sun Herald pages, and she just kept it in her whole house for no reason.
I'm going to bring that back up. So you talked about the top of that article that kind of made you more upset, which I definitely agree with. They threw a shot in there real quick. The bottom again, I mean, looking up Minch, figuring out that wasn't a derogatory term, but then also I still feel like there's a comma or a missing word.
It's a word.
And I wasn't going to show this photo, but I will, just because like you agree, like it feels like should have been another word, because it sounds like they're saying shooting of good guy Charlie Kirk, a danger each time he was on campus. Yeah. Was Charlie Kirk the danger, or was it a danger that he was going to get shot every time on campus? I think maybe the second one is what they meant. Now that I've looked into it more,
they did a terrible
job, right? Yeah. So I'll show this photo just to maybe give credit to the Sun Herald in a bad way. This was today. Whenever I went through their Facebook feed to try to find this story, they spelled, and again, it's a spelling error, but they spelled guilty wrong at the end of this headline. Judge calls facts in ex-officer's domestic assault disturbing, then finds him, and then guilty is spelled wrong. Yeah. So like, I don't know, man. Like if we're a little internet show. I can't spell to save my life. But like they're still a media outlet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But so what happened in the old days though is that it would go through an editor, and then it would go through the city editor. And that story got several eyeballs on it. Mm-hmm. For a lot of reasons. They wanted it to be perfect.
Correct.
They wanted bias out of it, and they wanted to be legal. No legal issues. And so there's a lot of care to make sure stories are like that. Now they don't have any layers.
Correct.
It's posted now, and then we'll clean it up on the other
That's
side.
right. We can edit it digitally versus you can't edit a physical piece of paper.
That's right. So it's go ahead and post, because there's a push to be first. You want to be first.
Yeah, 100%. Don't even matter if you're right.
That's right.
As long as you're first.
That's right.
And you brought up the fact earlier, the person who wrote the story isn't even the person that's making the headline.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But that's been that way since even the physical.
Yeah, it has been.
I would veer to say maybe now.
Yeah.
No, maybe not. Maybe.
Well, no, but see, let's stay with what you're saying though, because it never was the person writing the story that wrote the headline, but it was somebody local that was doing it.
Correct.
So they were sensitive to if this is a controversial story or maybe it was going to touch some people. They were sensitive to making sure that the headline complemented the story. When you write the story locally and then someone, I don't know where their central location is located these days, but wherever it is, they have very little knowledge about the local market. So I would say they probably care, but they're moving so fast.
Yeah, it's just a different organism.
It's another paper on my desk. Get out of here.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back up to real quick. So this is what they changed it to. So we want to give them credit there.
Yeah.
Oh, let me click right there. They did change it to. No, that's not going to work either. Let me do.
They made a public apology.
They did. Well, they did on their site. So they changed the headline to the shooting. The shooting has shocked the right from Mitt Romney to Donald Trump. So they took out the adjectives, the derogatory adjectives on Trump, and then the actual headline of the article changed to Charlie Kirk showed courage each time he stepped on a campus. So I can respect that a lot more. And maybe that's really what they meant from the beginning. I don't know now. And I will also, just in fairness, we're trying to be, as journalistically fair as we can. The editor of the Sun Herald, whose picture got shared online, a pretty good bit.
Yeah.
He wrote this. I'm the editor of the Sun Herald. I wanted to say up front, we missed the mark on the open column about Charlie Kirk's life and impact. As such, we have changed the headline and captioning to more clearly reflect what the column is about. The column, authored by a staffer outside the Biloxi market, was written as a tribute to Kirk. But the initial headline and caption information used poorly chosen words, which is what we just agreed upon. For that, we apologize. We know words matter. We will do better in the future. We are having internal conversations today about the sharing of opinion content in our company. But for today, we heard your feedback and we wanted our readers to know that we have made changes. So again, just in what little research I did today before I set all the graphics up today, I kind of moved the needle for myself a little bit. Yeah. So kudos to them for doing that, because I thought we were going to go real hard on them today. No. And if we did it the day that I messaged you, I had been a whole different story.
Burn them down.
Yeah, I would have helped bring you down.
It would have been a whole different story.
It's Blake Kaplan, and he's a terrific dude, and he's been at the Sun Herald for an awful long time, and he cares deeply to get things right.
Is he the editor? The one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I saw his photo. I didn't want to share that.
He's a really good guy. And, he's really, really worked hard to navigate through the reality of the digital tsunami.
But he's not local, correct?
Yeah, no, he lives here. Yeah. Yeah. Blake does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he has responsibilities for Macon and I think also Columbus, Georgia as well. Okay. So he's the editor for both of those as well. So he's got, that's what they've done. They've had to do
what
that.
does a guy in Biloxi know about Macon, Georgia?
We had to go spend some time there, but those newspapers used to report to me. So you go there and you learn them. And Columbus, Georgia, was the newspaper that printed the Sun Herald's newspaper after Katrina, and they would ship it back every day. We didn't miss a day of publication, incidentally.
Yeah.
And the team there was awesome. Pam Sadal, who was the publisher there, did a great. She's a
what a logistical nightmare that was.
Listen, let me tell you what they did.
And her out of helicopters.
Pam's husband Greg was involved in this as well. And incidentally, she's the co-president of Advanced Local now for Advanced Condé Nast. I encouraged her to come be the publisher in Birmingham, and now she's the president of the whole company. She's a terrific leader, but she was the publisher in Columbus. So what they would do is we'd send a list of things we needed: chainsaws, baby diapers, whatever it might be. And we had this huge depot that we created for our employees. And listen, I had community leaders. I'm talking about people who are well-to-do community leaders that didn't have a pot to pee in, showed up at our parking lot. And I just help them get what they needed.
Yeah.
So we had this depot that we worked out of. We would send a list, and they would print the newspaper, and during the day they'd go buy all this stuff. Her husband Greg would do it, and other employees load this truck full of newspapers and supplies and drive down every single day.
That's legit.
And then they got here, and we would sort through the newspapers, bring them to
whatever was standing,
wherever we could find. A lot of people ended up in where the I'm trying to remember what we called them at the time, but it doesn't matter. That wherever we could find people. And so what I would do, I would bring a stack with me. I had to walk across the Potts Ferry Road Bridge until it was permanently opened. And then I had to take my boat across. That's how I got back and forth to work. But I would bring newspapers to my neighborhood, and I would just distribute them. And people would start to learn, go to Ricky's house. This is where you can get the paper. And that's happened in every neighborhood all
you got 50 people stay in your driveway the next day.
Do you have any water while I'm here? Or, can we get some food? But that's where we were. I mean, it was you think about people didn't have your computers.
Right.
Okay, we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
No. Computers were gone, and a lot of people didn't have power for a while.
You could send a text message, but how long would it go?
People didn't have power.
Right.
They didn't have TVs.
Nope.
They didn't have power because a lot of them, their TVs were gone.
Right.
60,000 homes. Think about it. Gone. 60,000, 150,000 damaged. Let's hope there's never anything like that again.
That sucks.
I'm sure it's a matter of when, not if.
Oh, it is. I say it all the time.
Again. It's going to happen again.
I think that, just a quick comment about that. I think that one of the things we did that was so smart after Katrina as part of the Governor's Commission and working with Haley Barbour was building tremendous capacity and resilience into our system. So when we rebuilt stuff, whether it's power, whether it's sewage and stormwater runoff, the bridges, man, we built higher.
Yep.
We changed the building codes. We are so much better.
Just in case.
Yeah.
We're so much better. And I think Zeta, in a way, Zeta was an ass kicker.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we underplayed that one.
Yeah.
Because it came in as like a 1. And then they were like, well, this is probably like a 3.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a 1.
But it was a really good test. It was a really good test. The power companies had tremendous challenges. I had about 8 foot of storm surge at my house on Back Bay. That's basically about the story across. But it was a good test, and man, we bounced back pretty quickly from that.
Right.
If we get hit with another Katrina, I don't think we'll bounce back as quickly. But the reality is, we're a much better place today.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And we've done it. Most of us have done it and seen what it takes to get back on our feet.
We'll be the older guys now talking about it. I remember Katrina. I remember my grandparents. I remember Camille. You're like,
I ain't going nowhere.
So you remember the statement, Camille killed more people in 2005 than they killed in 1969.
Let's bring it around full circle because I want to get to your digital stuff. But let's real quickly talk about what the Sun Herald is now, as far as you know it. Like not holding you to this ain't doctrine, but what is it now, and how does that operate? You mentioned that the editor. How many people are there? How many boots on the ground?
He can correct me, but I think they have 4 or 5 people in their newsroom.
Okay,
maybe they don't have that many.
I guess less specifically on numbers, but how does it work? If you know, they write stories.
They write stories like they've always done it, and I'm sure they're posting it. They may be posting their stories directly to the internet, but that doesn't mean that the central location is not feeding all that. The what we called a river of news or the news feed, you can call it different things. It's being fed from different places, but it's ultimately centrally located. The newspaper itself, what's left of it, is all being laid out centrally located.
I haven't thought about this. This just popped into my head. I hadn't thought about this. I don't even know the last time. Is it physically in print still?
Yeah, I think they have some days of the week still.
Okay, so it's not daily.
No, it's not daily.
Okay. Yeah.
And what's interesting, when we went to 3 days a week in New Orleans, which was a big hubbub, the publisher of the newspaper who was here at the time, it was a really good friend of mine at one point. He wrote an editorial to say the Sun Herald will never be anything but 7 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like,
how'd that go?
Yeah.
That didn't go too
well. That didn't go very well at all.
We were just ahead of the game. And now people look at it and say, we understand what you were doing now.
Yeah.
It's important.
What will people do to wrap presents and eat crabs in their kitchen and all
buy
the other
more,
stuff that
buy actual paper,
actually
wrap it. Think about how many crawfish bowls we've had. You ever put newspaper down?
Lately?
I'm talking about lately.
Yeah. I remember my grandma wrapping presents in newspaper. Like, dang, I got the comics this time.
You ain't doing that anymore.
But it's you're right. I mean, but most people have already adjusted to that.
For sure. For sure.
I haven't, even when we were publishing a printed newspaper, I was even still reading it on an iPad.
Right.
And really heavily engaged on the digital side.
Convenience and technology will always win.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think AI is going to be the next, or is not going to be, it is the next thing. I've read, like I mentioned earlier, articles about how Google's having to scramble right now because people aren't going to Google to ask the questions anymore. They're asking AI or ChatGPT. And the difference there is Grok, and the difference there is that it just gives you the answer. Google would give you the website, so at least that website would give. Well, at least that website would get the traffic. So I look at that like even for our perspective, when we sell merchandise and think I want people to go to our website, if they ask a question, ChatGPT is just going to give you the answer. You're not going to go to that website.
Well, it's interesting. If I'm going to write a column and I need to know a specific piece of data, I can do a deep search on Grok, and it may pull from 20 different sources.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so I've got it. You got to always. You can't just take the answer you get.
Correct.
You know that because
and ChatGPT will give you a link from where they got it.
They did, and that's what you can go down there and double check it. Right. But it saves you so much trouble.
Unbelievable.
Imagine what you used to have to do sorting through. And of course, the problem was that the first search that you saw, whatever came back, the results were paid.
Whoever paid the most money gets the top side.
At first, it wasn't that way. But it became that. Yeah.
And so what Grok enables you to do, or ChatGPT, I think I have them both, but I think Grok's so much better. But what it does is revolutionary in terms of really saving the time of research.
It's unbelievable. I've incorporated it to everything that we do here.
Yeah,
everything.
I mean, if I'm hung up, if I'm hung up about a sentence when I'm writing my book, for example,
for sure,
I'll say, what's a better way to say this? And I'll, we do all that back and forth,
push notifications, title to the show, blah, blah, and it gives you a cool little emoji and everything else.
But it also has increased like workflow. It like you said, it saves you time.
You can
you're still like, I think of it more like you're the coach and it's the quarterback. You know, you're like saying, no, do this, do that. I need you to, we're going to run this play next. And I'm sure in 3 to 5 years.
The only bad thing I've seen about it is in my neck of the woods in school. It's taken over.
Well, that's like what Ricky said earlier, though. It's going to change. Colleges have to change that. The old way of teaching with a test or write a paper or whatever. The only way you can really get away from that is do it in class in front of me with no computers. But why do that if that's not what the world's going to look like?
There's got to be. But see, what's important about school is the critical thinking side of this.
Correct.
And learning stuff. Learning stuff and stretching your mind and being able to make decisions and rationalizing things and so on. So learning, it may actually enhance learning. And for kids who look for shortcuts, it won't be I don't think there'll be a lot of ways around the shortcuts.
I think you might be able to get away with it, especially in the next few years. But I think once you get to your said destination, if you can't critically think like you're talking about, then you'll be exposed.
Yeah, you got to still make decisions.
I had a kid today, and he was looking online. You can go to Penn University or something like that, and you get your high school diploma in like 6 months for $1,500. And I'm like, I don't know if that's right or not. Might want to do some research. And I was like, but you haven't done anything in my class. What makes you think you can do a 6 months class and finish what you need to do? He's like, I just AI everything.
And I'm like, he might.
That's how he
may get away with it. He'll get his GED, and that's fine. But like I'm saying, when he shows up to the job or when he shows up to the next level of education or whatever, eventually that will catch up to him.
Right.
It will. It just will.
It's going to be a wild world, man.
It's going to be wild
as we sort through all that. I mean, what it's going to do for business to make them more efficient and smarter.
Unbelievable.
I mean, like if you want to market, if you're you name the business, if you want a marketing plan, I can have you a top-notch marketing plan.
30 seconds.
Well, what I was going to say is within an hour, because here's the point. I'll let it give me. I'll give it the parameters.
Yes.
Right.
It will write this, but because of where I come from, I have all this in my brain. I can now read it and make it super damn relevant.
Well, you just nailed it.
So what might have taken 2 weeks to do before, I can have you a world-class presentation in 1 hour.
Right. But your ability to tweak it is going to be better than mine or his or anybody else that's using ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, because you have the experience. And that goes back to what we're just saying about the kid with the GED.
That's right.
If you don't have the experience, you don't know how to drive it or send it. If you're completely foreign to that idea, you're going to have to sit there and talk to it for a while.
Well, see, what's going to happen is the customer is going to say, this is ChatGPT. So
for sure. No.
What competitive advantage did you bring to the table? They're going to ask you.
You probably know this better than anybody. I've listened to marketing podcasts that talk about, I can't remember these people's names, but these guys made $1 million careers on their ability to write copy.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
That's gone.
Yeah,
that's gone. The ChatGPT will write that for you.
You're still looking for those unique angles, and that's actually important. But if you got limited digital dollars to spend, you can
leverage
in on what is you need to do right now. And the reality, even let's see, SuperTalk's got a great digital division. If you look at the digital capabilities that all these companies bring to the table, they bring it's a commodity for the most part. They're doing targeting, they're doing social media, they're doing video, they're doing that. It's mostly a commodity. So ultimately, what's happening is that customer who does not have the ability, because they're sucked into their vortex of trying to run their business, they don't have the ability to keep up with algorithms and all this other stuff. So they need you. If I'm representing SuperTalk, for example, SuperTalk Digital working with you, what they need is somebody they can trust.
Right.
And how do you build trust? You got to know what you're talking about to build trust. And once you had that, it's hard to not keep that. And that's how you guarantee longevity. So if you're skipping steps to get to that point, you'll get exposed, and you won't be you'll be eaten alive.
I believe that.
And that's just digital I just mentioned, but it could be literally any career.
Correct. Correct.
I just think we're headed to Terminator sooner than we think.
There's no doubt. It's like Sarah Connor staring at you.
Yeah, just like
talking.
Oh
to
yeah,
ChatGPT.
you like that AI now? Just wait till the rolling tanks.
Hey, let me just real quick in your area, because I think about the doctors a lot. Doctors in some respect kind of resist it because they think it's going to take over, but no, it can actually help them make better decisions. So what I think is going to happen is, as they're typing in or voicing in to your record, I meet with you and I say the symptoms and here's what I'm going to do, that they would have a medical AI that just kind of checks behind it. Did you think about this? What about this contraindication on that drug?
It's already past that. So now what they have is they can take. This isn't, again, I like to compare it to Google in 1998. It existed. Most people didn't know what it was. Yeah. Some people heard of the name. They didn't know how to use it. Right. That's kind of where we're at right now. But they can take their phones and hit an app, put it on the counter. Obviously, the patient knows. They let them know. Yeah. They have the whole entire conversation with this. Yeah. And when it's done, it's already typed up into notes. I work with a commercial real estate broker that's doing the same thing. And we have Zoom meetings. AI takes all of our notes like you would have had a scribe or whatever. That's already there.
But what I'm thinking about, though, Jared, is literally checking your diagnosis, having the AI double check your diagnosis. Did you order this test? Did you think about this? And on top of that, have built into the AI Medicaid reimbursements and insurance reimbursements.
It's already there.
So literally it's all being done for you. And then you're going to reduce substantially malpractice because if the doctor's having a bad day and missed a little something, AI is telling you, ask that question. Yep. But I wonder, is it widely being used now?
No, it's now, again, I live in South Mississippi. I don't know what they're doing in big New York and LA and all that kind of stuff, because they're always way earlier adopters than we are with technology. But I've already heard that. I've already, seen, like you said, people don't realize when you write a note in medicine, that's how you get paid. Insurance companies go over that. And if you miss X, Y, or Z, they just kick your claim straight out. So now ChatGPT knows, and it says, hey, this needs to be in there. This is what we're going to put. And now it's the responsibility of the physician to go back and check that and make sure it's correct. But it's not missing much.
But think about how this could be used. If you think about places like the Mississippi Delta, where there's all kinds of healthcare challenges. If you have what would happen typically is a young doctor would come out and work around a bunch of other doctors and be able to learn from them and whatever. So if you're sending young doctors to a place like the Mississippi Delta to cut his teeth for 2 or 3 years, think about how AI could help them be a better doctor.
Oh, it's
they don't have the experience.
It's so like Elon said, it is PhD level smart in all categories right now. All right. So what that means to you, for me, if I have a question, I can call you about the Sun Herald like I did, right? Well, with Grok or whatever one you want to use, like you literally have a direct text messaging, and you can even speak to him now. Response back. It helped me fix my freezer. Right. It's like it can from little medium.
I'm the best handyman on the planet
now. Now
what I can fix now is unbelievable.
That's right.
It's like everybody's grandpa. You know,
that's right.
Where
right.
do I go? How do I fix a roof? All right, Grandpa, here you go.
So
100%.
So my book, when I get done with my book, Finding Hope, it's going to be about 150 pages or less. It's meant to be paste it into Grok, develop a page for people who need to find help for this area.
Yeah.
And literally within 1 minute of copying, pasting, asking that question, bam.
Yeah.
The exact, every suicide hotline, every text, everything.
I'll give you one on top of that. So we had a page on our website that lists all the live bait
shops,
all along the Gulf
St.
Coast,
Louis,
right?
all the way to Boston.
It was literally, Joey put it together. It was the name, the telephone number, whatever. I copied all that, put it into ChatGPT, said, look, I want to update this page. I want to make it better. Search all these and make sure they're for real. It went through. It was like, okay, I think these couple maybe are not in business anymore, and you missed these 4.
Yeah.
I added that in. And then so not only through text, then I said, I want this to be on my website. Can you write the code for it? It did that. It wrote the code. So now when you go on our website, it even has a search bar on our website where you can type in Gulfport, and then all the Gulfport ones come up. I don't know how to write code. It did it for me.
No, is that?
It's wild.
It's nuts.
It's wild.
And we are just
getting it. This is the beginning. Google at 98 or 97. I don't know when Google came out, but like this is early.
Our
early
kids
stages.
won't even have to get up out of the chair. They'll just talk it into existence.
And that goes back to like social programs, like you talked about earlier. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but you hear about people talk about universal basic income and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where are we headed with this? If are we all going to get higher skilled? Are we all going to get? I think things have a way of working themselves out as long as it doesn't turn into Terminator. But where are we headed?
Somebody still got to turn a wrench. Somebody still got to
have you seen Elon's robot?
Well,
it ain't far from that already.
But he can't work in salt water.
Yeah. So they're gonna figure that out. But no, I think one of the beautiful things I love to talk about Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College because they have been so adaptive.
Great.
Over 50% of the students there now do non-traditional education. So you think about, they got diesel programs there. A 2-year program, you come out making 6 figures.
Yes,
no doubt.
Yes.
So I think you're going to still need those people. What's the guy, Mike Rowe?
Yes.
He's constantly, constantly reminding.
CTE.
We're going to need these folks. And so I think people are going to start to understand that the traditional college education is not for everybody.
Right.
And
this is the first piece of technology that's come out that threatens white collar jobs more than it threatens blue collar jobs.
You can trim a lot of them, but you can't trim a computer getting into a ship and welding. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that yet.
Like Ingalls, for example.
Right.
I studied because I've been writing a lot about economic development and what can we expect from Ingalls. Ingalls is on the cutting edge right now. I mean, what their use of robotics, the way that they configure in the 1970s, they had 27,000 employees at Ingalls. They got 11,000 there now. Yeah. But if you do a test, even if they continue to add more potential shipbuilding there, if you look at where they're going to be in 15 or 20 years, they'll probably be about 11,000 employees. So they're going to be healthy.
Right.
They're going to be continuing to do extremely good work. You'll see probably more robotics being put in, but AI at a company the size of Ingalls, what it can do on the inventory management side, the just-in-time inventory management side, is revolutionary. What it's going to change everything about how they do that. Ingalls will always be on the cutting edge, but we ain't gonna get growth from there. That's the point.
Right, right. That's going to be across the board.
We may not lose employees, but we certainly are not going to necessarily gain it either. But we'll see how all that plays out.
Well, I want to touch on this before we wrap things up. I want to know, so we've talked about your past, the Sun Herald and all that you did there. What about now? So you got your SuperTalk, you do your show there. You're in the digital world now. You're on the internet. You're interviewing people through the interwebs.
Yeah. So what's great about SuperTalk is the radio side of what they do is extremely healthy still. So
which is weird, right? That radio is still a thing. Like that's
it is.
And there's a lot of people that just have it on. Like we have you on for like background, like turn the TV on just for background noise. A lot of people turn on SuperTalk just for background noise.
Yeah. We have the Brownwater Banter app, right? We have an app so you can get on your phone. We have a digital radio station inside of that app, right? And but terrestrial radio is still a real thing. Like it hasn't really been overtaken, I don't think, as much. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Some music stations have.
Okay.
And so
there's been consolidation for
CPR, let's say WCPR, one of the most successful rock stations in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, what they've done there is,
Kenny's a good dude.
what that team has done is really incredible. But SuperTalk, Steve, who owns this company, had this vision as the consolidations were happening in radio, all these companies selling to these major guys. They were doing what newspapers are doing, and that is, no longer having local programs, but having everything run from a central location. Steve said, we're not going to do that. I want to build a better Mississippi. And how can we do that? We need to buy stations across the state that are geographically located so that there's no place in the state where you can be and not hear SuperTalk.
Okay.
So he did that. He built this web of stations, unbelievable. 12 of them. Then he has another 12 or 13 stations that are music genres and whatever else. And then as the digital reality began to come true, that's about the time I landed with them. So when I retired in 2016, I didn't plan to work again, and I was enjoying life for 4 years.
4 years, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was.
You got the itch.
I was going. Well, no. What happened is, I was up at the Mississippi Delta with my farmer friend going down a dirt road, loving life. And I get a call from an intermediary, somebody I know that also knows the owners at SuperTalk, said, Steve and Kim would like to talk to you. Kim Dillon, the president of the company, Steve, the owner, said, I'd like to talk to you maybe about you doing a daily radio show. And I said,
yeah, I'm retired, dude.
No way I'm doing a daily radio show.
No shot.
But tell me what you're thinking. So he told me, I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll meet with them and maybe I'll have some ideas because I like the concept. I like what they're trying to do. Yeah. So we met for about 2 hours. And Steve later says, this is some 4 or 5 months later, I might add, but he later says, I knew it before we got off the phone that you were going to do this. You just we had to wait for you to convince yourself.
Right.
So we had a couple more conversations along the way, but I thought about it for like 4 months, 5 months. But he said, look, we'll set up a studio in your house.
Right.
We'll allow you can do 2 or 3 shows in a day if you want. We'll get someone to work with you on setting stuff up. You'll have a producer to do the show. Right. All you got to do is go in there,
sit down and have
conversation.
See the face. Yeah.
So I thought about it and finally said yes. And he said, I knew you were going to say yes. And we started the show in January 2020. So it's been over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We've done 1,700 conversations in that
awesome.
period of time. And the thing I loved about being a publisher was the editorial. Being able to write editorials and having a voice in the community, being able to volunteer in the community. I was president of everything, chairman of everything, involved in everything as a leader in the community, always volunteered an enormous amount of my time. And I miss that. I miss that connection.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I missed
it
because I was kind of enjoying it. But Ann would say, and my wife would say, I just don't, this is not going to last. There's no way you're going to continue to do nothing. People like John Hairston, who's CEO of Hancock Whitney, and Alberto Ibarguen from the Knight Foundation, and a long list of others said, well, get your breath, man. Because there's no way.
The itch is going to start itching.
You're going to stay away.
Bit, yeah.
And we started doing the show, and it was, having conversation with George Schloegel, for example, who's no longer here, having the opportunity to ask him, how does he want to be remembered? And he says, I don't want to be remembered. I just want the things I was involved with to still happen, so people choose to come back here, and live in paradise. To be able to capture those kind of conversations and have them forever, it's I can't tell you how important it is. And then I forgot how much I learned about community. That's the other thing. It was stored back. I wasn't thinking about it, but just kind of stored back in the back of my head. But as I started to do these conversations, it started coming back to me. Everything started coming, all these relationships and all this stuff and Katrina and it was incredible. And the other thing is I'd built credibility. So it was easy for me to ask someone to be on the show because they trusted me. They knew that I wasn't going to burn them. Mm-hmm. And we had a history together. So CEOs come on a moment's notice. They're not hesitant about that. Have great relationships with statewide leaders, and it's a great thing. And the other thing that's interesting is I never leave my house. Got a
little room in the back.
That's the best way to work, 100%. Right? Like
I literally never leave my house. I mean, I went somewhere. I went to that baseball game. That's about it. And I go to the Mississippi Delta, and then the outdoor show comes out on Monday. That later was added, SuperTalk Outdoors, and that is fun as hell. That show, man.
Yeah,
because I get to meet so many cool people.
Yeah, Ronnie Daniels on.
Yeah.
He's always on.
I have a long list of guys here locally but it's being listened to in Corinth and Tupelo and DeSoto County. I mean, all over Mississippi, and I hear from all those people.
Was this your first like in front of the camera situation?
No, I've never done anything like that before. But look, if you think about it, it's like you and us sitting here today. We had editorial board meetings. So when the governor would come, I never had to ask somebody else what the governor thought. I could just talk to the governor.
Yeah.
So for my whole career as a publisher, I had the opportunity to always talk to the thought leaders in the community, whoever they were. And we would have editorial boards like this, and I ran the editorial board. So it's a lot like that.
Just with a camera in front of your face now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, in the radio mic, knowing I sometimes forget because I'm enjoying the conversation so much. I forget that it's actually being videoed and that it's going out on the airwaves and
sinking to the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
your show goes out because I know I see it on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Is that so you record the show, then it goes out on terrestrial radio as well?
So it goes, my show, let's see, it's every day. It runs Monday through Friday at 9:00 and then again at 1:00. And then it goes into Facebook, YouTube, all the podcast platforms, across all of that, and
with video, obviously. On those
with video
platforms.
and that. But we were talking about newspapers that were boss hogs at one point. Well, the boss hog for radio is still the radio. The radio is still it's a good business. And you add to that the digital chops. When I came to the company, I helped them kind of refine some of their digital capabilities. And it's been terrific to be able to offer that skill set to the company. I really like what Steve and Kim are doing with the company, and watching their news team evolve. Listen, their news effort. If you go to supertalk.fm right now, you'll see the news effort. That news is read by the team and goes to 52 radio stations across the state of Mississippi. So Steve had the vision to create the SuperTalk News Network. So it's not just the news, it's not just the stations he owns, but all the other stations. So if news happens on my show, for example, it's getting blasted. It's getting blasted. Yeah. There's no place in this state in the state where you're not going to hear it if you're listening to radio or online or there's SuperTalk News has its own Facebook presence and social media presence and all of that. They've begun to master all of that. It's an amazing story.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all are what the Sun Herald used to be as far as local reporting. You're doing that now through terrestrial radio with people, boots on the ground, local guys and girls right here in the state of Mississippi, and then disseminating it now over social media in a digital way.
Yeah. So like, here's the SuperTalk app that I think everybody should get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything. It's free.
Yeah.
So you go to SuperTalk app, and what this team does is it sorts through. See, they're getting tips from all these radio stations. Think about it. So if something happens in that community, they're getting a tip from that radio station. And they're sorting through tons of stuff, more than they could ever work through, and picking the stuff that would be relevant, really relevant to that community, or that maybe rest of us would want to listen to. So, you go here and there's a news feed. It's just story after story after story. Their coverage of sports is the best in the state. I mean, what they've done with Southern Mississippi State, Jackson State, Ole Miss is the best in the state. Yeah. And then, of course, the sports talk guys. I don't know if you guys listen to them. They're incredibly good. So you add it all up, and it is and then, of course, you can go to opinions, and you'll see the stuff that I write.
Well, there you go.
Other people write. So
I feel like we came like full circle in this conversation because it started out as like a hit. In my mind, a hit piece against the Sun Herald, but I mean, we learned the history there. I feel like maybe that wasn't quite what they meant there, but it still exists. So even though technology is done when it's done, even though everything is digital, it still exists with what you're doing with SuperTalk. So people just got to you got to discover it.
You got to find it.
Yeah, you got to find it like your grandma had to find the subscription to the newspaper, or her grandma, really, because that goes. The Sun Herald, I was looking at that too. I had this on my notes. We never said it, but it goes back. It was the Daily Herald. Yeah. All the way back into the where was it?
See, Roland. It was an afternoon newspaper, and Roland started the Sun.
The Sun, that's right, in the Daily Herald.
And so when I was there, actually, I worked in advertising, and the day we joined those two newspapers together and moved them to a morning newspaper, we also went live on a system, this is more than you want to know, but circulation system that was going to accommodate us being able to bring the two newspapers together. So this automation process was one of my projects, and we pulled it off. And it was miraculous that we pulled it off. But we joined the morning newspaper and the afternoon newspaper into a single morning newspaper, because it was becoming clear that afternoon newspapers were beginning to die, that people wanted a morning newspaper. So we just kind of accommodated that.
That was before my time.
That was in the 80s.
I don't even remember it.
Well, it was in the 80s.
So the Daily Herald started in 1884.
Yep.
Right. That's how that goes. And the Daily Sun was in 1934. And then it looks like they joined together around the 60s ish.
No, the Daily and Sun were brought together in the 80s, early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think 84 maybe.
Yeah.
The big centennial celebration happened then too,
Okay.
Was it actually a local paper before then? Like somebody owned it in Biloxi?
Yeah. You're talking about the first
the Wilkes, Camp Wilkes.
Yep.
Okay, that's that Wilkes family who owned the Daily Herald. That family created Camp Wilkes.
I always go back to the D'Iberville Press.
Yeah.
Always the D'Iberville Press, because they would cover our little league games, our football games, and it's just the people
Like you said, looks like SuperTalk's doing it now, and y'all are heavily all digital, really. I mean, Trustworthy Radio as well, but that's cool. You just gotta seek it out, and you gotta find it, because it's still there, and people are still writing. People are always going to write articles. People are always going to cover their local communities. So. Even though it seems fractured, I guess am I wrong? It's really still there.
Yeah, it's not there in the form that it was before.
Correct.
Where you
correct.
It just 100 people in a newsroom.
But that's technology that's allowed for that.
We will never see that again.
Right.
But there's a lot of entities that are trying to serve the community, and SuperTalk's one of them. WLX is trying, and WXXV is trying, and Sun Herald's doing the best they can with what they had to work with, and it's just the reality of where we are today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky, we appreciate you stopping by, man. Coming on here, I sent the message, and we got a date, and you showed up, so that means a lot.
You did a good job.
Yeah. Well, I was.
Thank you, Joe. You did a good job.
I was fired up. I was like, "Who's the?" Like you said, people call you all the time. I was like, "Who's the guy that I know that can talk to me?" I was saying, "Ricky can. Let's get him in here." So
it's a fun history, I think, for people to hear.
Well, and I feel like I'm even. I calmed down a little bit after I investigated a little bit more, right? That knee-jerk reaction online. I still don't agree with how they did it.
I think everybody could, because you on Facebook and you see an article and it's like, and it's like, oh, maybe I read that wrong.
Well, one of the main things I wanted to say is that in spite of all the changes in the industry and all the changes that McClatchy, that owns the Sun Herald, that core team that's left at the Sun Herald, I've loved them.
Yes. No,
they were here. They helped save this community after Hurricane Katrina. They were on our Pulitzer team. They are great people. And so when someone messes up a headline, it makes me sick.
Yeah.
That's why I actually posted, because I wanted people to know that was written by somebody else. It wasn't written by these guys here locally. But I hope people will hang in there with them. They need all the help they can get. And it's easy to be mad these days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, that goes back to like the Charlie Kirk thing too. Like we had a little conversation here, we had a little dialogue, and I feel like kind of lowered the temperature in the room a little bit. Doesn't mean we won't call them out if they do it again, but.
Well, God bless you guys. You're doing a good job. Keep it up.
Well, we appreciate it, man. We really do, especially coming from you. So, thanks everybody for tuning in on the lives, the replays, and the audio side of things, man. If y'all, if you don't have the Brownwater Banter, if you don't have the SuperTalk app, go download it. It's free on the App Store.
And
Google
get the
Play.
Brownwater Banter
and
app.
The Brownwater Banter app is in there as well. And we have all of our content, our merch, everything. Cut the algorithm out and go right to our stuff.